Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. So today we're going to be talking about the best and most important things to understand and to do in the early season if you want to have a real success and you want to really reach your peak in the new season, at the end of the season, all these types of things. So starting off, getting right into it, the first thing that you need to do in the early season is build up your champion pool. So if you're just a one trick, you just have one champion you always want to play, that's fine. You don't really need to build, a huge champion pool or anything like that. But if you would always had that one or two champions that you really want to learn, or you see the meta shifting away from your strengths and you want to try to learn something that's a bit more meta, the early season is the perfect time to do this. The reason is because, one, you're going to be having really unbalanced games anyways, due to the fact that everyone resets pretty low. Sovereigns go to Diamond, and even people as low as Master will go to Emerald. So you'll have a really big mix of people from the Diamond to Emerald range, or even the Plat range. And so the games are really unbalanced anyways, and you might as well take advantage of this by just trying out champions, trying out things. Even if you lose some games, not really the end of the world, and it's a great time to try out new champions. You can see, I'm playing Shyvana right now. I don't play much Shyvana. Playing some Amumu too on my stream, stuff like that. These types of things, early season, even if you lose a little bit, are definitely valuable in the long run if you want to expand your champion pool, or even try out a new role just so you can understand that role better. All of these types of things. After that, don't be afraid of high elo games, guys. So one thing people will tell me is that they don't play in the early season because of all the sovereigns and challengers in their games. And I understand this makes your games feel really unbalanced. It makes them not very fun. That's totally reasonable, but I want you guys to shift your perspective a bit and shift how you look at it. You can have the opportunity to lane against someone who's a much higher rank than you, and by laning against them, you can find a lot of, improvements, a lot of mistakes that you make, and you can learn a lot. So even if, you lane against a Sovereign, you do fine in lane, and then he just goes and stomps your team afterwards, watch back the game and try to learn from it. Try to figure out what it was that he did that really made him able to stomp afterwards, even after you went even with him in lane. Or if he does shit on you in lane, try to figure out what it is that he did to, obviously beat you in lane. Try to learn from that. Try to figure out the different things that they're doing that you're not. You can basically learn a lot more in the early season than the later parts of the season because you're playing against people who could potentially be a lot higher ranked than you. Now, the downside of this is you're also going to have people a lot lower ranked than you. And of course, that's an unfortunate reality, which is why you can't place too much of an emphasis on the result in the early season. At the end of the day, you're not going to get past, you're not going to get to your peak early on in the season because everyone's climbing. The Sovereigns haven't even reached Sovereign yet. They're at Master or Diamond early in the season, whatever. So of course, early in the season, you're not going to just shoot up to Grandmaster if that's your peak, right? It's going to take you time to get there. And the later parts of the season are what really matter for climbing really quickly because that's really, when you can actually reach your peak, just because the higher players will then be higher at that point. So you might as well use this earlier season to just care about, again, these things like improving your champion pool, improving your skill in the game, learning from others, learning how to carry others, trying out new play styles, all of these different types of things. So alongside that, this means you don't need to play as high of a volume of games because you're not really trying to climb as much as you're trying to learn. So this gives you a great opportunity, if you haven't already done this, to start reviewing some of your replays. So instead of playing, say you play, 4 games a day, you could play 2 games for the first week or 2 a day, and then review 1 or 2 games. Maybe review one of your own games, look for your typical mistakes, write down the common mistakes you see, similar to how I do when I coach people. And then once you find those common mistakes, you can then go and watch other players to learn from them. So if you're a Shyvana main, let's say, go and watch a Shyvana Chinese jungle player play on YouTube. Or if you happen to play one of the champions I play, or a different streamer that is good, or, a YouTuber like Broken Support, you play one of his champions, go and watch how they play and compare that to your own gameplay. Pause in the middle of a game right before you see a potential decision being made, and then think to yourself, what decision would I make in this scenario? And then compare that decision to the Sovereign or Challenger, YouTuber or streamer that you're watching. These things can help you kind of understand your own thought process and try to start thinking like a Challenger or Sovereign. So if you do this, instead of, again, focusing on the result early season, that's going to be very beneficial. So again, also don't spam your games as much. Your mental is really important in the early season. You don't want to give up within the first month of the season. For all these reasons I said, again, you need to understand the purpose of the early season, which is all these things like building champion pool, building your skill and all that. So don't spam games if you're tilted. If you're not having fun, take a break for a day, 2, even, an entire week at this point, because again, the early season doesn't matter. So whatever you feel like is going to end up rejuvenating you the most to climb in the later parts of the season is what you should do at the end of the day. Because you're going to have these unbalanced games. I mean, I literally am a diamond right now. I had a gold in my game. who built Serpent's Fang Rakan. And then the game after that, I had a top laner, Lucian, build a Heartsteel, and Twin Guard as his first 2 items. So, like, guys, I understand you're having weird games, and I played 18 games yesterday because, you know, I stream, so I play a lot. And we went 9-9, and we had games where we did really good. I mean, the Shyvana game you're watching right now, we start off 7-0. We end up losing this one. And so, like, all these things, I get you, right? I feel, you know, the frustration. But at the end of the day, I'm getting better at Shyvana. I'm getting better at Amumu. I'm getting better at these champions that I wouldn't have otherwise played and practiced. And that's what matters for the early season. Because either way, we all know I'm going to climb up at some point in the later parts of the season. And so that's just, again, that's my mindset. That has been my mindset for a long time. Some of my best seasons where I've climbed the highest, I started off with really low win rates. And some of my worst seasons, I started off with a really high win rate. It completely just depends on a lot of other things. Like, that is just the main thing that I really want you guys to keep in mind. And then I also want you guys to start practicing the mindset of focusing on yourself more than your teammates. So I want you to really go into some games if you feel like you're a type of person who tilts or blames teammates a lot. I want you to go into your games and I want you to really focus on thinking about how you can win after mistakes happen rather than focusing on what your teammates did. And this is easier said than done. And literally yesterday I was blaming my team too because I was getting frustrated. So I know it's easier said than done. But either way, I want you guys to try your best to just go into a game and be like, okay, my teammate just inted, my top laner lost lane, my bot laner lost lane, and my mid laner is not doing anything very useful. You didn't see that flash on the wall, by the way. But I want you guys to look at these things and then still just think, okay, but what can I do to possibly win? What would Talon tell me to do? Would he tell me to go on the opposite side of the map and play around the gold bounties and try to use that as the one way to possibly come back? Would he tell me to just play around my one strong lane, even if most people are doing pretty bad? You know, these different things are really important to keep in mind. And so I want you guys to keep in mind those types of things when you're going into games and really practice having that type of a mindset. Because again, there's basically that artificial cap on where you can climb early season. You're not going to reach your peak in the first month. And then once we're closer to, I would say, a month to a month and a half into the season, if you do hit Master, I recommend playing Legend Queue because that's really what we're going to be trying to do this season is playing Legend Queue, getting people in there and trying to have high quality games in there. But if you are sticking to ranked as well, then once you're, you know, a month and a half or so into the season, I recommend starting to shift towards, you know, really grinding. Choose your 2 to 3 champions that you're going to want to grind at that point in the season. Once you've figured out what works and what doesn't, look at your win rates of your champions, what champions you're winning on and losing on, these types of things, and really keep that in mind. So this is a shorter video today. I really just wanted to get this out there so you guys, you know, don't feel too discouraged in the early season if you have some frustration. And if you're having some good starts to the season as well, that's really good. And I hope that those starts obviously continue to work out really well and you continue to win a lot. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. If you guys are interested in coaching as well, that can be a nice time to get coaching is right now in the early season. So it's just $15 an hour. You can get coaching from me, a rank 5 Sovereign autofill player. Just DM me on Discord, Talon1169, or through the link in the description to join my Discord server. If you want to be a member of my YouTube channel, it's $5 for a month-long membership where you get access to my YouTube videos, usually about 12 hours early. You get access to all my coaching notes for all my sessions and a couple other small perks. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed.